On this week's NESN Patriots Podcast, we will discuss Patriots' win over the Buffalo Bills and what that means for their 2018 playoff hopes. And we will talk about their upcoming matchup against the New York Jets. Hello and welcome to the NESN Patriots Podcast. I am Doug Kyed, joined as always by Zack Cox. Zack, how are you doing?
Doing fine, Doug. Had a nice Christmas yesterday. Nice to get a little day off from the Patriots grind. It's weird. I was talking about this earlier. This is a little bit of a tangent. Sorry to start off with a tangent, but every single year, I've been out of college now for 7 years. Every single year on Christmas, my brain tricks itself into being like, man, it's great that I have the rest of the week off before I have to do anything, and then be like, oh wait, no, we're back here at work the next day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe that's just my dumb brain, but it was a very nice Christmas. Nice to have a day off. How was your Christmas? How was Olivia and the whole fam?
The Christmas was great. Olivia had a great time. She enjoys opening presents. She got probably way too much stuff for a 16-month-old.
I saw some of the pictures. It looks like she cashed in.
Yes, she 100% cashed in. But no, you're kind of right about that whole week off thing. I think that sometimes when you're older, it's harder to get into, I guess, what you would say, like the Christmas spirit. But part of that is having the time off beforehand, which we just don't really have in this job, and it's pretty much impossible to have time off because there's a game to cover at the end of the season.
Still a lot going on.
It would be great if the NFL could start to push up the season a little bit and push the last game of the season before Christmas so that those of us with playoff buys or those teams who, their seasons would be over would stop after Christmas. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
There was a great Bill Belichick flex last week, by the way, saying that Christmas comes right in the middle of the football season, which is, for him, it kind of does. Usually they still have a while to go after Christmas. We'll see if that's the case this year.
Usually still have more than a month. As you said, we'll see how that goes this year. They did beat the Buffalo Bills in Week 16, which puts them back in the driver's seat for the number 2 seed, which would be a first-round bye. It did clinch them a playoff spot and the AFC East title for, the 10th straight season, which is pretty unbelievable. They haven't lost the AFC East since 2008 when Matt Castle was the quarterback. This is also their 10th straight playoff appearance, all of which is just kind of expected here in New England. But a win over the Jets in Week 17 would clinch the number 2 seed in the AFC playoffs, which certainly would go a long way towards the Patriots, hoping their Super Bowl hopes. But before we get too far down that road, let's talk about that win over the Bills. Tom Brady kind of continued to struggle in this game, but everything else would say it was kind of their most complete win of the season. The run offense looked good. Run defense certainly improved, and the passing defense continues to be impressive. So it's kind of weird to go after a game and say the weakest part of the game was Tom Brady and the Patriots' passing offense.
Yeah, but that was absolutely the case in this game, which was a little bit strange. On one hand, you can look at it and say Tom Brady didn't really have to do much in this game because the Patriots still won this game rather easily. I mean, the final score was a little bit closer than it actually kind of played out on the field because the Bills got a garbage time touchdown with like a minute remaining after the Patriots had already kind of taken some of their defensive players off the field too. So this was a pretty much a walk for the Patriots. And when you look at it that way, it doesn't really matter then that Tom Brady did not play his best game, but kind of projecting forward into the playoffs, it is a little bit concerning just the way Tom Brady has been playing. And I know you'll probably get into it in a little while about why he might not actually be playing as poorly as a lot of people think he is. But just the way that, I guess, the eye test with Tom Brady, where he still seems to be kind of bailing out of some throws early, trying to avoid hits that aren't really there. It definitely seems like he's dealing with some sort of knee issue, even though he's continued to deny it and say that he's fully healthy. I don't really believe that just because based on the way he's played over these last couple of weeks, it really looks like he's just trying to get out of the way and avoid contact whenever possible, which I guess is not the worst thing in the entire world. Maybe you'd rather have Tom Brady doing this than have him take 4 or 5 sacks a game or even take 4 or 5 quarterback hits that could kind of break his 41-year-old body at this point. But it's a little bit concerning just seeing the way Tom Brady has been playing.
Yeah, I'd say that the last 10 quarters or so of play from Tom Brady has been pretty concerning. He really has not been throwing the ball deep at all. He's really been relying on short passes, on checkdowns, on outlet passes to running backs, to receivers. He did not complete a single deep pass last week against the Bills. He did not attempt a single pass over 20 yards. And like you said, he's kind of falling away from contact on some of these throws that are falling incomplete, whether they're low to receivers, high to receivers. The accuracy has really suffered as he's trying to avoid contact. But, as you said, I did write a piece this morning. Tom Brady's numbers, the advanced stats, which would be, I guess, the accuracy percentage, the deep ball passing, and throwing under pressure, are not worse than they were in 2013 and 2014 for Tom Brady. I think that a lot of people would look at Brady's season this year and think, this has got to be a historically bad season for Brady, but his 2013 season was actually pretty significantly worse, and he's playing about as well or poorly, however you want the glass to be full or empty, as he played in 2014 when the Patriots won a Super Bowl. I think that the storylines around that 2014 season were just a lot different because he had improved from 2013 to 2014. So a lot of the concerns were kind of put to rest when Brady was playing better in 2014, whereas this season, he's taken it back from 2017 to this season. So while 2014 and 2018, from an analytical perspective, are almost identical for Tom Brady, they are kind of viewed from a different scope because Brady was on the rise in 2014, and he's kind of been on the fall here in 2018.
Absolutely. That's what makes it a little bit kind of tough to decipher exactly what this means, because he is playing significantly worse than he was playing last year,
yes.
I would say, when he was the NFL MVP and had really his best season since what, 2010-ish?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. He was the MVP, so yeah, that probably would have been his best season since 2010 from that perspective. But his raw numbers really rose from 2013 to 2014 to 2015 to 2016, and then from 16 to 17, they actually took a slight step back, but compared to the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL...
And the fact that he missed 4 games with the suspension in 2016.
In 2016, yeah.
But yeah, so this is, again, it's I can see how this is in kind of evidence that Brady is declining, because if you look at kind of the graph of his stats, they are declining from last year. But again, it's not a disaster of a situation for him right now. But I mean, I can't see them going particularly far in the playoffs if Tom Brady continues to play the way that he has over these last 10 quarters,
right.
Which who knows if he will kind of snap back into it, especially if the Patriots do take care of business this weekend. They do get a first-round bye. That will give him a full 13 days between games, which should theoretically kind of help whatever he's dealing with, whether it's a knee, whether it's something else, kind of heal and get him back to as close to 100% as he can be going into that divisional round game.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like the issues over the last 10 quarters have got to be injury-based. It's basically ever since he adjusted his knee brace against the Dolphins that his stats have taken a fairly significant downturn over the last 3 weeks. So, like you said, I think that the week off, the bye week, would certainly help him in the playoffs, as long as the Patriots can solidify that and lock that down this weekend. But, even without that bye week, I think that it would put a lot of concerns to rest this weekend against the Jets if he does start to play like himself again. If he puts out a 300-yard, 3-touchdown performance, then I think that a lot of the freak out that we've seen from Patriots fans in the media and everything, that'll be kind of forgotten as the Patriots enter the playoffs. But if he has another game where he is falling away from contact, where he's kind of in self-preservation mode, and where he's not attempting passes longer than 6 yards, then I think that people have every right to be a little bit concerned as the Patriots do enter the postseason. And I guess I would also say that, no one is playing that well right now in the AFC. It seems like every week there's a new hot team that people are concerned about, but then those teams keep on losing.
Even if you look at the entire NFL, I mean,
right.
I know the Saints have locked up home field out in the NFC, but they very easily could have lost to the Steelers on Sunday. There's no juggernaut or even no kind of undisputed favorite right now going into Week 17, which is really kind of a departure from what we've seen in the last couple of years, where it's really been the Patriots and one or two other teams that looked like the clear kind of cut above everybody else. Going into the playoffs in the AFC right now, there are it's pretty easy to imagine a lot of the teams, maybe even any of the teams, beating anyone else who's in that field right now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was so hot on the Chiefs and Chargers. They both lost this weekend. It seems like currently the team that people are most scared of are the Ravens, but the Ravens are playing the Browns in Week 17, and I could definitely see a situation where the Ravens lose to Baker Mayfield and the Browns, and then no one's really all that concerned about the Ravens as they head into the postseason as well. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's throughout the entire NFL, no one is playing really that hot right now. So there's no really hot team entering the playoffs that everyone's going to be scared of. And I know that our colleague Matt Chatham actually did some research, and quite frankly, how teams fare in December a lot of the times doesn't really matter anyway in the playoffs. So hot teams don't necessarily perform that hot when the postseason rolls around. So I don't know, as concerning as this Patriots season has been, as down on the Patriots as everyone seems to be, I still think that they're in pretty decent shape as long as they lock up that number 2 seed as the postseason rolls around. And a lot of that is kind of based on how well they did play against the Bills. I know it is the Bills, but I mean, Sony Michel had a really nice bounce-back game there. As I said earlier, the Patriots' run defense, I think they let up 3.3 yards per carry to running backs in that game. Mm-hmm. Didn't fare quite as well against Josh Allen when he was scrambling.
A couple of those longer runs were on that garbage time drive, too.
Right.
I believe their overall yards per carry allowed was in the low 3s
like 4,
coming into the late fourth quarter.
Right, yeah.
They finished up with an even 4 yards per carry allowed, but yeah, some of those late runs really kind of inflated that. But even 4 yards per carry is a massive improvement from what we had seen in the previous couple of weeks. So yeah, they definitely shored up a lot of those kind of the danger areas that we were talking about last week that we wanted to see this team kind of solidify. They did have one of their best rushing efforts in franchise history. Really, it was the second most rushing yards they've had in a single game during the Bill Belichick era. The 10th most they've had in franchise history. A lot of that was Sony Michel, who had a very good game. A lot of that was Cordell Patterson, who had 66 yards on 4 rushes, most of them jet sweeps, before he hurt himself and left the game with a knee injury. But we've talked about the kind of running attack being just maddeningly inconsistent this season. So I think even with it playing that well against the Bills, who were ranked pretty highly in run defense coming into this game, that's still not an area that you can really look at and be like, oh, cool, the Patriots had this. Their running game played this well in this game. This is going to automatically continue over the coming weeks, because that really hasn't been the case so far this season. So that's another reason why you kind of need Tom Brady to look more like a normal Tom Brady, so you don't have to rely on having a historically productive rushing game to have a chance to win.
Yeah, definitely. And more on the run defense a little bit, I would say that it put some concerns to rest that when the Patriots actually attempted to be trying to stop the run, they could. And earlier, against the Steelers and even a little bit against the Dolphins, the Patriots were playing in dime and quarters defense so much, it really didn't seem like they cared about stopping the run. In this game against the Bills, they actually made Adrian Claiborne inactive. They made Danny Shelton active in this game, and by playing more regular nickel defense, they really were able to stop the run a lot better. One other big plus from that game against the Bills was the performance of J.C. Jackson. Just when he thought that he couldn't get any better, he actually probably had his best game of his entire career.
He's just fantastic.
He didn't allow a catch on one target, and he intercepted a pass that I think Jonathan Jones was in coverage for.
I believe so, yeah.
He kind of jumped the route and picked off
bad pass by Josh Allen, but still an impressive play by Jackson.
Nice play by Jackson. Continues to show off those good ball skills. So, I mean, he's been a plus all season, but it's incredible that he's keeping it up as well as he can. I think I've said before, I kind of keep expecting him to turn back into a pumpkin at some point, because this is all kind of still based on small sample size, but over the course of the entire season, he leads qualified cornerbacks in passer rating allowed. I think it's like 31.3 or something like that. He has 3 interceptions himself. Someone else, I forgot who it was. I think it was Jerron Harmon
in the end zone.
Also had an interception on a pass where J.C. Jackson was targeted. So he's really not allowing catches. He's breaking up passes. He's picking off passes. And quite frankly, right now, it's a really bad idea for opposing quarterbacks to throw in his direction at all.
Which makes the kind of the dilemma, that's the word, for opposing quarterbacks, is that you have Stephon Gilmore, who's a Pro Bowler, on the other side of the field. So it's really making it difficult for teams to target their number 1 and number 2 receivers. And when Jason McCourty plays as well as he did on Sunday, which has not been a sure thing of late. He kind of had a couple of rocky games before coming into this game against the Bills. When he's playing as well as he has, he might have been the Patriots' best defensive player in this game. He had an interception, a big pass breakup on third down, forced a fumble downfield. When he's playing like that, and you can lock down the third wide receiver behind that, this is a very, very talented Patriots secondary. And it also seems like Patrick Chung and Devin McCourty are starting to kind of come around a little bit after they had some struggles earlier in the season against tight ends and running backs. So
yeah, Chung had his best game of the season as well.
He did, and Patrick Chung it's very clear from watching him during these games that doesn't appear to be really even close to 100%. He's been wearing a shoulder stabilizer for the last couple of weeks. He injured himself on the first play of this Bills game, had to leave the field. I believe he was only off for one play, then he came back in. So he's definitely one of the tougher guys around, so he's going to continue to be out there for the Patriots. But I think that had definitely limited him a little bit in recent weeks, some of these injuries. But yeah, like you said, he had one of his best games of the season against the Bills.
Yeah, so I mean, all in all, I think the defense is certainly playing about as well as you could possibly expect at this point. Obviously, you have to caveat that by saying that they did just play the Bills, but they did play well against the Steelers on the road as well, so that's definitely a good sign for the future. Certainly not another litmus test coming up, though, against the New York Giants and the New York Jets. But Bill Belichick said in his news conference today that the Jets are playing much better than they were when they last saw them, which was a little bit over a month ago. They played them right after Thanksgiving. When Josh McCown was the quarterback. We are going to see Sam Darnold in there, the Jets rookie quarterback, who has had a decent season. He's got 17 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. They've only won one game since the Patriots played them, but they played it pretty close against the Houston Texans. So, I don't know. I mean, this is, I guess, maybe a team on the rise, but you're still talking about a 4-11 Jets team who the Patriots should definitely beat at home.
They absolutely should. I mean, if you're looking for some bright spots from this Jets team, Sam Darnold had easily his best game as a pro on Sunday. He very nearly led them to a win over the Green Bay Packers, who are not the Green Bay Packers of a couple years ago, but they still have Aaron Rodgers. They still have some talent on that team. Yeah, Darnold's stats in this game, 24 of 35, 341 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah. Easily his best game that we've seen from him, and even the week before against the Texans, which is a game that the Jets also could have won, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he's taking care of the ball a lot more than he had kind of earlier in his career and even going back to his time at USC. And the Jets just fell all over themselves in this game. I think they had a 22-point lead in either the fourth quarter or late in the third. I know they got hosed by some penalties. Todd Bowles was really kind of critical of the officiating after the game, and he had a point on some of them. There was a big pass interference call on Tremaine Johnson that probably should not have been called. Maybe shouldn't have. But the fact that the Jets were kind of this competitive and were still in a position to potentially win this game, I think you have to view as a positive, considering they're a team that only has 4 wins all season. They have been sort of a mess for a while now. I think they're going to come out. Surely they're going to come out motivated to kind of spoil the Patriots' party in this game. But like you said, the Patriots are kind of in the same situation that they were last week. If they lose to the Jets in this game at home, it says a lot more about this team than a normal game would.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if the Patriots can't beat the Jets in Week 17, then there's really no reason to have any expectations for the Patriots in the postseason, no matter where they're playing, whether that's at home, or on the road. Yeah, I mean, the Jets certainly competed well against the Packers. Still wasn't a losing effort. That game was in New York, so it was a little bit different than the situation they're facing. But I will say that before the Patriots' last game against the Jets, I was talking up Chris Herndon a little bit. I think I had Chris Herndon in my DraftKings lineup that week. He's been blowing up. He had 6 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown against the Packers, and he's a rookie tight end who's playing pretty well with Sam Darnold. I think Belichick said today that they've got a pretty good connection so far in their rookie season. So he's been a player on the rise. It'll be interesting to see how some of those Patriots safeties do against Chris Herndon this week. As you said, they've been a little bit inconsistent against tight ends and running backs, so I think we probably will see a lot of Patrick Chung and Devin McCourty against Chris Herndon this week. So, I mean, if they can stop him, there's not a lot of other weapons on this Jets team. Robbie Anderson went off for a big game, but I would assume that we'll either see J.C. Jackson or Stephon Gilmore shut him down this week. But, yeah, I mean, there's some interesting matchups in this game, but all in all, it is the Jets. After all,
I'm not expecting a particularly entertaining game this weekend. I'll say these year-end AFC East games for the Patriots tend to be kind of games that we'll look back on in a month or so and really have no recollection of what actually happened out there on the field. I'm expecting another one of those. The Patriots really do need to win this game though, because if they win, they clinch a first-round bye for the 9th consecutive season. And they don't have that easy, if Houston loses, then they get in.
Right.
Anyway, if they don't win this game, they have to. There's all sorts of weird, I think, let's see. So looking at the NFL playoff scenarios right now, Patriots clinch a first-round bye with a win, straight up. If they win, they're automatically in. With a tie and a Houston loss or tie, or a Baltimore loss or tie, a Houston loss, and a Tennessee loss or tie. Yeah. So that's... The Patriots want no part of any of those scenarios.
Right, if the Patriots lose, they need a lot of help.
They need a lot of help, which means they'll probably end up playing on Wild Card Weekend for the first time in forever. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they're going to have a relatively easy time winning this game. But it is a game, another game, just to kind of continue to get back on the right track. I mean, I know I'm going to be looking to see what we see from Tom Brady in this game. He's kind of in the same position that the Patriots running game and the Patriots run defense were going into last week. You probably don't need a great game from him to win this game, but you kind of want to see something like that going into the playoffs to give the team a little confidence.
Yeah, you'd also like to see a little bit more out of guys like Chris Hogan, Rob Gronkowski.
0 catches last game.
Yeah, and Philip Dorsett as well. Yeah. Philip Dorsett didn't have a catch. Chris Hogan, Rob Gronkowski, those guys had receptions. Hogan and Dorsett were not even targeted in that game. Rob Gronkowski was targeted 3 times, didn't wind up with a reception, and he also had a bad drop that led to a Tom Brady interception. So you would definitely like to see a little bit more, not just out of Tom Brady, but the entire passing game as a whole. Julian Edelman, despite the drops and penalties that he's had, he's really been Tom Brady's most valuable receiving weapon in recent weeks, even more valuable than guys like James White or Rex Burkhead or some of those safety outlets out of the backfield. Julian Edelman has really been, he had more than half of the Patriots' receiving yards. He had 6 of Brady's 13 completions. So, without him, I don't know where that passing game would be right now. So, as much as Patriots fans are kind of complaining about, some of those drops and penalties, like I mentioned before, don't take him for granted, because without him, I don't know where this team would be.
Absolutely. I mean, we spent all week talking about how the Patriots are going to replace Josh Gordon and replace his production. Their answer in this game was basically just give the ball to the running backs the entire game. Yeah, because like you said, nothing from Philip Dorsett, nothing from Chris Hogan, nothing from even Rob Gronkowski. So that, again, that's a strategy that can get you by against a 5-10 team or a 4-11 team that they're going to be seeing this weekend, but probably not a strategy that's going to get you very far in the postseason. So I'm really interested to see how the Patriots kind of handle that whole thing, because they're going to need to get some production out of more than Julian Edelman. They need at least 2 or 3 of those guys to kind of be viable threats in the passing game for this team to have success in the playoffs.
One other interesting thing about this upcoming week, the Patriots can still get the number 1 seed, but they would need a lot of help. If they win, Kansas City loses to the Raiders, and the Chargers lose to the Broncos, and the Patriots would have the number 1 seed. Obviously, that does not seem very likely, especially the Chiefs losing to the Raiders, but the Raiders did just beat the Broncos, which, it's small feat.
Beat the Steelers a couple weeks ago.
Exactly, beat the Steelers a couple weeks ago. They're definitely playing better now than they were early in the season. And the Broncos are playing at home. They are coming off a loss to the Raiders, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that those teams lose, especially considering how the Chiefs and Chargers have been playing in, I guess, more recent weeks. But I don't know. I mean, hopes for that are probably, they shouldn't be high for the Patriots, but just the fact that the Patriots can still get that number 1 seed, it's almost kind of frustrating, I think, for Patriots fans, because they lost the Steelers and because they lost the Dolphins. Without one of those losses, then the Patriots would be in the driver's seat for that number 1 seed with only the Jets in their way.
I mean, and then even looking back earlier in the season, I mean, the loss to Detroit now kind of still doesn't really make much sense looking back at it. Looked a lot lost to Jacksonville, who is 5-10 now. Yeah. There's a chance that all 5 teams that beat the Patriots this season could finish out of the playoff picture. Right. A very legitimate chance at that too, because if the Titans lose this weekend, they're out. If the Steelers now need a lot of help to get into the playoffs, so it's looking back, you can you can kind of see why there's kind of some frustration about some of these losses, looking at them and say, how can the Patriots not beat a team that ended up kind of being a disaster all season and finishing 5-10, and they cost themselves some opportunities there.
There are some other interesting matchups this week. I don't know how much they'll relate to the Patriots when it all comes down to it, but the Ravens are definitely in the driver's seat for that AFC North title. They are playing the Browns, though, which, as we said earlier, not the easiest matchup. If the Ravens lose to the Browns and the Steelers beat the Bengals, then the Steelers win the AFC North. And one of the most intriguing matchups of the week, or perhaps the most intriguing matchup, is Titans-Colts, because
winner take all.
Winner take all. Whoever team wins that gets, that number 6 seed in the playoffs. And the only way that they can mess that up would be to tie, which would be an unbelievable result.
Because then
if
the
that did
Steelers
happen.
get in, most likely.
Because
right?
then, the Steelers would get in, or I guess, would the Ravens get in? If they lose, I don't know what would happen.
But looking at this playoff picture as a whole, even if the Patriots get the number 2 seed, which seems like the most likely path, there's still a very real scenario in which they can end up playing the AFC Championship game at Gillette Stadium, because all they would need is for a very hot Baltimore Ravens team, or potentially the Chargers, who have kind of, if they say they rebound after losing to the Ravens this weekend, all they need is one of those teams to beat the Chiefs in that divisional round game, which I think a lot of people can see happening, considering the Chiefs have not looked nearly as dominant over the second half of the season as they were in the first half. That happens, the Patriots take care of business against the Texans. Patriots are right back into the AFC Championship game at home. So even with all the struggles that the Patriots have had in these last couple of weeks, even with the kind of criticism they faced, it's a pretty plausible scenario that they end up right back in the spot that everybody kind of expected them to be early in the season.
What's the most likely scenario for this week for the playoff seedings? Number 1 would be KC. Number 2 would be New England.
New England.
3 would be Houston.
Houston, Baltimore.
4 would be Baltimore, because even we're assuming that they can beat the Browns, which I don't know. I mean, that's not the safest assumption.
That spot's almost definitely going to be either Baltimore or
Pittsburgh.
Yep. And then you have the Chargers locked in at 5, either Chargers or KC. And then 6 would be the winner of that Colts-Titans game.
Colts-Titans. So we're going to probably say Indy. Where is that game? That game is
I believe it's in Indy?
In Tennessee, I think.
Oh, it's in Tennessee? Okay. But they might have Blaine Gabbert for that game, which is...
Right, yeah. So I think that Indianapolis would still be... So you'd see Houston against Indianapolis in the first round. Say Houston wins that game, so then the Patriots are hosting Houston, which certainly is not a bad situation. And then you'd have in the opening round, the wild card would be the Chargers or the Chiefs against the Ravens or the Steelers. And you would probably assume that the Chargers or Chiefs would win that game. And then AFC Championship game, Patriots certainly would be hoping for a Chiefs loss, whether that did come to the Chargers, Ravens, or Steelers. I'm getting myself confused right now. But I mean, all of those things are possible.
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm of possibility where the Patriots could have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, even without getting that number 1 seed. So it's kind of amazing. They're 11-5. A lot of people are down on them because of that reason. But I would say that maybe their chances of making the Super Bowl aren't quite as high as in years past, but they're still pretty high given how this team is kind of viewed inside and outside of New England.
Yeah, I think you have to just compare them to like we just did, what the rest of this AFC, and then even over in the NFC, what the rest of the kind of field looks like right now. Because you can look at the Patriots and say, yeah, they have not been as dominant as they have been in years past. They're not the kind of bona fide number 1 Super Bowl favorite, which they're not, and they have not been as dominant as they have in years past. But there's no dominant team in the NFL right now. There's especially no dominant team in the AFC. The team that's probably going to get the number 1 seed in the AFC, in the Chiefs, is a team that I think has lost, 3 of its last 5 games? 2 of its last 5. Really hasn't looked the same at all since that crazy Monday night game against the Rams. So it's if you're picking an AFC Super Bowl team right now, who would you pick? The Patriots have to be close to the top of that list.
Yeah, it would probably be the Patriots or the Chiefs. I don't know what the current odds are on that, but I mean, they're certainly up there. I think last time I saw them, they were 3rd or 4th in Super Bowl odds. So it is pretty unbelievable given how this team certainly is viewed inside New England. Before we get out of here, let's play America's favorite game and guess where a player that I have never heard of on the Jets went to college. I will put this up to you. Rookie linebacker. He's an inside linebacker. He wears number 52 for the Jets. Anthony Wint.
Wint?
Yes, spelled Wint.
Anthony Wint went to South Carolina.
I was going to say Kentucky, so we're both on the SEC bandwagon here. And he went to FIU.
Ooh, that's tough.
That is tough. That's one tough. Where that would be among the lowest that I would guess.
All right, let me get one before we get out of here. All right, I'm going to go with. Also, I'll stick with linebackers as well. Brandon Copeland, outside linebacker, number 51.
Copeland. Ooh, Auburn, maybe.
I'm gonna go Texas A&M.
Penn.
Ooh.
Wow.
Man, we've gotten two FCSs in back-to-back weeks. They're really screwing us with that.
Yeah, but those FCS ones are impossible.
We might have to give up this game soon because now I just feel sad that I can't get one ever since I got my Cornell Armstrong. Now I'm just the rest of my life is going to be meaningless.
I'm just hoping at some point that you put up a player that I have heard of, but that has not been the case so far because Terrell Basham went to...
Was he Clemson?
No, he went to... I know that whatever college team he went to, or at least I think I do, wore like a green uniform. I don't think it was Tulane. Ohio.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know how I remember that, but there we go. All right, well, that'll do it for this week's NESN Patriots Podcast. Follow Zach on Twitter at Zack Cox NESN. Follow me on Twitter at Doug Kyed. And keep it on NESN.com for all of your Patriots coverage. Next time we're back here, if all goes well for the Patriots, we will not have a game to preview. We will only have a game to recap and the postseason to preview.
We will be podcasting regardless.
We will be podcasting regardless in the Patriots' potential bye week. Don't want to jinx anything. I don't think there's any wood in this room. I don't know. Whatever. Talk to you guys later.